Good evening, everybody, and it's the 29th of September, and it's the meeting of the Epping Forest District Council Area Planning Subcommittee East. My name is Councillor Ian Hadley, and on my left I have Graham Courtney from the Planning Authority. On my right, Vivian Messenger, who's Democratic Services, and Steve, who's the Audio-Visual Controller. I would normally have Councillor Heather Brady here as my Vice Chairman. She doesn't seem to be here yet, and we've had no apologies. So, in that instance, I'd like to... We have somebody who wants to speak?
Chairman, I'm not sure why she hasn't put them in officially, but Councillor Brady is away on holiday. So, apologies on her behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whitbury. In which case, I'd like to request that Councillor Kester come and joins me as Vice Chairman. Do you agree? All agree. Thank you. Mr. Kester, would you like to join me now? While you're walking here, I'll move on to the first item, which is something I read out for everybody. Okay, I would like to remind everyone present that this hybrid meeting will be broadcast live to the internet or filmed and will be capable of repeated viewing or other such use by third parties. Therefore, by participating in this meeting, you are consenting to be filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting and or training purposes. If any public speakers on MS Teams do not wish to have their image captured, they should ensure that their video setting throughout the meeting is turned off and set to audio only. Please also be aware that if technical difficulties interrupt the meeting that cannot be overcome, I may need to adjourn the meeting, and members are reminded to activate their microphones before speaking and turn them off when you've finished. Thank you. Okay, first item. Second item. Advice to public speakers attending. Vivian?
Yes, they have had it, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Item 3, apologies for absence.
I've received apologies from Councillors Bedford, Brady, McCann, McCready, McIver, Morgan, Payne and John Whitehouse.
Thank you. Item 4, declarations of interest. No declarations of interest. The minutes of the last meeting. Any comments on the minutes of the last meeting? Or do we accept them? Agreed? Thank you. Any other business?
None, Chairman.
No other business. Site visits. Anybody proposing a site visit? No site visits.
Move on.
So we come on to the first item, which is EPF 0321/23, 18 Chapel Road, Epping, CM16 5DS, on pages 8 to 10. Okay. Graham, I think you're leading us through this. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, everybody. So this application seeks retrospective consent for the removal of 2 existing sheds and the erection of an outbuilding. The application is before committee due to an objection from the Town Council and 2 neighbouring properties. The application is recommended for approval, subject to conditions. The site is a semi-detached dwelling with a fairly long, narrow garden that is situated in Chapel Road, Epping. As can be seen, outbuildings of various sizes are fairly commonplace in this locality. The application is retrospective, so the outbuilding can actually be seen here. The building is for use as a summer house by residents of number 18 Chapel Road. This shows the relationship with the neighbour at number 20. And just here you can see 2 of the large outbuildings just mentioned within the gardens of number 22 and 2 Ashlings Road. This is a photograph provided from a neighbouring property. So as previously stated, the new outbuilding would replace 2 small sheds and is situated to the rear, the very rear of the garden. Whilst you've seen the photographs of the actual building, these are the as-built plans. The outbuilding measures 4 metres by 5 metres and has an eave height of 2.2 metres and a ridge height of 2.9 metres, although it does sit on a 210mm base that further increases the overall height. The building is utilised as a summer house, as previously said, and there is no evidence that it would be used for any separate use. Furthermore, given its location and scale, it is doubtful that this could be used separately. Nonetheless, a condition is recommended restricting the outbuilding's use to ancillary purposes. So the key consideration in this application is the impact on the neighbours' amenities. It is clear from the photographs that the outbuilding is fairly visible due to its height. It is stepped in 500mm from each of the boundaries, although this does little to mitigate against the height of the building. As was seen in the various plans and photographs, there are several large outbuildings within the vicinity of the site, many of which are substantially larger and higher than this proposal. You can just see a few here. Just going to pop back to this photograph. So the outbuilding is approximately half a metre higher than what would be permitted development, which is, don't get me wrong, fairly substantial. However, there is a potential PD fallback position that must be considered, which at its simplest would involve removing the pitched roof and adding a flat roof instead. The council, there's been some concerns raised about the colour, but the council is unable to control the colour of an outbuilding. Although the building is visible, officers do not consider it to be overbearing, and when taking account of surrounding outbuildings and the permitted development fallback, it is considered that the proposal is acceptable, and therefore the application is recommended for approval, subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Corley. Okay, we have speakers on this one. Yep. So the first speaker, or the only speaker on this one, is Councillor Christine Burgess from Epping Town Council. You have 3 minutes, Christine.
Thank you, Chairman. Epping Town Council object strongly to this. One of the main reasons being that it is retrospective, and we feel that this is setting a precedent for retrospective applications. It seems that people just ignore planning and asking for planning permission. They just seem to disregard things, and we feel that all applications should be concluded prior to the commencement of building, etc. Also, you say it's not overbearing. Well, I think that's a matter of opinion. It's a very high building in the middle, and it does, I think, cut out light from other gardens and so on. The Epping Society have also objected on this, and we just feel that it should be, I don't know, not granted. Thank you.
On the base.
Thank you. Okay, we have no other speakers on that, so over to you, members. Who would like to be the first person? I think Councillor Holly Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman, and I have a lot of sympathy with the comments from the Town Council. I do think retrospective applications are unacceptable and something that we don't wish to see. I think in terms of, if we were looking at this purely as an application, it's quite a balanced case. I do worry about the impact on the neighbours, and I do think it's slightly overbearing. I've got 2 questions. You said there's similar buildings on the road. How do they compare in terms of size to this outbuilding? And also in terms of retrospective, in terms of permitted development, what could be built under permitted development, and how many what's the measurement off, if you know what I'm saying, in terms of how many extra metres could they have done if they'd done it under permitted?
Thank you. Graham, will you?
Yeah, sure. I'm just going to reshare the screen. just because there's a couple of slides which I think show some of the outbuildings. So, I mean, obviously you can see here, certainly there's a extremely large outbuilding that stretches the entire width of this garden here, which is a much wider garden than this application site. Obviously, there are these two here. There are some further outbuildings can be seen here, and also up here. Obviously, I haven't got photographs specifically of those or measurements of those, but you can see from these photographs that they are rather large outbuildings, probably akin to, if not larger than, in this case, the proposal. And I'll also just, this one was useful because obviously this does show photographs of two very nearby outbuildings, and you can see the height here, if not similar to, then possibly even higher than the outbuilding here, but they are certainly rather large outbuildings there. In terms of permitted development, again, I'm just going to pop back to here. As I mentioned in the presentation, you'd be looking at about a ½ metre reduction required to make that a lawful development. Obviously, because it's within 2 metres of a boundary, it can't be any higher than 2.5 metres. At the minute, it's, as I say, it's 2.9 metres to this point, but there is also a base, so it's around 3 metres, if not slightly higher. So yeah, you're talking about ½ metre. It's hard to show on here where that would be, but it's probably, I don't know. I don't like guessing because, yeah, but it's about ½ metre. And then I'm just going to mention, obviously, there's been a couple of comments about retrospective applications. I'm sure members are all aware that we have to treat retrospective applications in exactly the same way as we would propose applications. We cannot take into account the fact they're retrospective. That cannot be used as a reason for refusal. We have to treat them exactly the same as a proposal. Thank you.
Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You've got Councillor Sharif and then Councillor Whitehouse.
Okay, Councillor Sharif, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I have to agree with Councillor Burgess. I think retrospective, people using that to do the development and then say we're putting in a retrospective application, I think it's a loophole, if I'm perfectly honest. I really don't like it. The fact that this building is, okay, it's ½ metre bigger than permitted development, it still looks quite obtrusive. And may I ask the planning officer if we can just go back to the image of the summer house, and there were 2 buildings on the right-hand side. I thought they were houses. Those, are they houses?
They have the Ashlands Road, don't they?
No, they're, as far as I'm aware, they are outbuildings. So if I flick back, these are them here. I don't believe they're houses.
They look like houses.
Ashlands Road.
Yeah, I don't believe they're houses. I think they're outbuildings.
There's 2 houses that face Ashlands Road, aren't there? Surely it's a road.
They actually look like houses, that's why.
Chairman, point of information, those are outbuildings, they're not houses. You can see the Ashlands Road house up at the top of the picture. Those are outbuildings at the back of the at the back of the house at the top, and the back garden of the house right at the bottom. They are outbuildings.
Agreed, they certainly look like outbuildings to me, yeah. Not houses.
Councillor Whitehouse.
Councillor Whitehouse.
Thank you, Chairman. I found this report very sparse, and it was very difficult to make a decision based on any sort of evidence at all. We have heard from the planning officer about the permitted development and the what would be allowed, but normally that's in the report. So, you know, I do feel this report could have had much more information than we've got. Yeah, my feeling, one of the objectors asked for natural screening. I don't know whether it would be possible to put that in at the back of the, I presume it's the one that is facing the back of that building. But I don't know if it's possible. There's nothing in the conditions or anything about natural screening, I think. But yeah, I think it should be brought down to what is allowed in permitted development. I think that is overbearing.
John.
Councillor Philip, please.
Thank you, Chairman. We've heard far too much about retrospective applications. Everybody on this committee knows we do not like them. However, as Mr Courtney quite rightly pointed out, we are not allowed to take that into account when we're actually determining this application. The legislation doesn't allow it. It's not a loophole, it's how the legislation is written. And as such, we have to treat this as this is an application that come in fresh. We have to take into account what is around there, and we can see from the photographs that were provided, and if people had taken the time to actually drive down Ashlands Road, they could have seen it from the side quite easily. This is one that's a relatively easy one to see in terms of the outbuildings. Given what we're looking at here is a dual pitched roof, which if it was set more than 2 metres from the boundary would be perfectly acceptable under permitted developments. You can actually go up to 4 metres on a dual pitched roof. We're now looking at 2.5 metres from, if you're less than 2 metres from the boundary. So we're talking about 60 centimetres as a maximum. Personally, I think the view of an outbuilding with a pitched roof is much more attractive than a flat roof. It's also more ecologically sound because you're actually capturing the water off it rather than pulling it on there, and it has less impact on the gardens around. It's much better for the area. It is only marginally, therefore, more than is allowable under permitted developments. There are, as we've been seeing from the pictures, many other very significant outbuildings in this area. I cannot see any reason that we could use from a planning point of view that would be sustainable at appeal if we were to refuse this. And as such, I'm completely happy that we have to accept it, whether it's the best thing for the garden or not. It is not, I believe, refusable under planning legislation.
Thank you, Councillor.
Shall I? I'd just like to say something.
Oh, yes, certainly. Councillor Kessie.
Thank you, Chairman. Just very quickly, I know we go on at some length about minute details and measurements and all the rest of it. I don't believe most applicants have much of a clue about the detail. To them, they think that something is acceptable, and it happens to be a few centimetres one way or another, I'm sure, doesn't actually occur to them at the time they're making the arrangements to build these things. If we were talking about some ugly great building in the middle of somewhere that seriously affected everyone, it would worry me, but I have to say, I don't think this one worries me at all.
Thank you, Councillor.
Anyone else?
Anybody
I can't
else?
see anyone else.
See anyone?
Yeah, no, you know to vote.
Okay. So we come to a vote now. The vote is those in favour of the recommendation to grant the application with conditions. Please show your hands now.
Eight, Chairman.
And those against?
2, Chairman.
And those abstaining?
1.
So, thank you. The application, therefore, has been granted. Okay, on to the next one, which is item 9, EPF 0680/23, Bassett Filling Station, 215 High Road, Northfield, CM16 6ED on pages 11 to 27. Graham, I think you're leading us through this again.
Indeed. Thank you, Chairman. So this application is for a replacement filling station at, as pointed out, Bassett Filling Station in North Weald. It is before committee since there is an objection from the parish council and a number of surrounding residents. The application is recommended for approval, subject to conditions. The application site, as I say, is an existing filling station within North Weald. I'm sure most members probably are aware of the site. It is, of course, surrounded by residential dwellings. This shows the existing canopy and pumps and the relatively small shop that they have on site at the moment. So the existing filling station has this large concrete area that is used for parking, and on the other side there are 2 electric charging points, so up here. So this shows the existing site layout. So you have here the shop, just here, the canopy and pumps just here, This is the parking area I just mentioned, and the electric charging points are here. So to the rear is predominantly a parking area that serves properties in Cunningham Rise. This shows the proposed layout. So as can be seen, this would accommodate a larger shop just here. The relocation of the pumps and canopy further into the site here. Moving of the access points. The creation of a disabled parking bay just up here, and a bin store down here. The majority of the changes are immediately adjacent to this car park area to the rear. However, there are obviously going to be more direct impacts on 219 High Road, which is this property up here, and 21 and 22 Cunningham Rise, which are these properties here. So this shows the existing and proposed street frontage. The canopy and pumps, as I say, would be moving further into the site, further away from 219 High Road. However, obviously the enlarged shop would remain immediately adjacent to this neighbour. This shows the existing and proposed rear view of the site, which, as I say, predominantly adjoins a parking area. I'm just going to show some CGI images of the proposal as I run through the main issues. So policy T2 of the adopted local plan seeks to protect filling stations, and more generally the local plan encourages the improvement and expansion of commercial sites. The proposal has been through pre-app and has followed officer advice, which included reducing down from a two-storey building to a single-storey structure as proposed. The scheme has also been amended during this application to address concerns raised by the officer. Given the existing use of the site, it is not considered that the proposal would have any significant additional impact on neighbouring amenities. The design and layout of the new filling station is considered to be acceptable and would increase the viability of the filling station. An agreement has been reached regarding the opening hours of the station, which would be conditioned. No objections were received from any of the expert consultees, and as such, the application is recommended for approval, subject to conditions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Graham. Okay. Speakers on this, first in person we have Mr. Tariq Amadi, an objector. Thank you. 3 minutes, please.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, dear Chairman, I wish to make a formal objection to the application for the full planning permission of the Bassett Filling Station, 125 High Road, Northfield, Epping, CM16 6ED. Since moving to Northfield a couple of years ago for some peaceful country living, we have now just been aware the new planning construction at this day. My concern is that the new project will be operating 24 hours, which was not mentioned in the letter that was sent to me. Could you please kindly confirm if the above project will be operating 24 hours? If this is the case, I wish to strongly object to this project for the following reason: traffic generation, highway safety and parking, overshadowing, overlooking a lot of privacy, disturbance through noise, dust, fume, a loss of amenity, and finally, the village, Northfield village, will lose its character, I believe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Graham, will you just confirm the amended hours?
Yep, so the amended... So originally the application was proposed for 24-hour opening, which the case officer in this location didn't consider to be appropriate. So there had been discussion and the amended hours, I think I know what they are off the top of my head, but I'm just double checking in the report. I believe they're 6 a.m. until 11 p.m. But I just want to double check that because it's in. Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, this was. Sorry, 15. Yep. So yep, 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday to Saturday, and 6 a.m. 10 p.m. to on Sundays and bank holidays. I believe the current open hours are 7 till 10. I understand.
Thank you. Right, we have another speaker on this one. This is Adriana Jones from Northfield Parish Council on Teams, I believe.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman. Parish Council thanks the committee for being given the opportunity to speak on this application. As you will see, some of our concerns have already been reported within the agenda. However, the Parish Council is aware of the large number of objections to this application by local residents and would like to make the following comments. The Parish Council feel the new revised opening hours are still excessive and would like to see no new additions to the current timing. The structure of the building, even being single-storey, does seem quite large for the size of the site overall, and we feel that it would be detrimental to the amenity of the neighbouring residents. The Parish Council cannot see what type of materials the fencing would be made out of. Whilst the Parish Council understand the need to enclose the site to the rear and the side, we must ensure the look of openness is maintained. By its very nature, a garage/petrol filling station can be antisocial via means of noise, fumes and smells. Therefore, this will have a huge impact on local residents every day, and it will be a problem, especially late in the evening and going on through the night. It would have an impact on the ability for residents to sleep. There would also be an issue of light pollution. Looking at the application overall, the Parish Council asked the committee to consider refusing the application in its current form for the sake of the amenity of local residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. One more speaker, that is Mr. Matthew Jones, who's the applicant's consultant, again on Teams. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councillors, thank you for your time this evening. As many of you know, the site in question is a well-used local facility and provides services to local residents that would otherwise require them to travel further afield. This is recognised by the Epping Forest local plan, which prevents local service stations from redevelopment into alternative uses under policy T2. The scheme before you today has been developed carefully with your offices as described in the report, with the site's context in mind. As part of this process, the scheme has been scaled down and the built form kept behind the existing building line. A modest expansion of the shop footprint is required to ensure the site remains commercially viable into the future, and it will also allow for the provision of a wider range of goods to local customers. We are pleased that some of the comments welcome the improvements to the site and do understand the concerns that local residents have expressed. We wish to reassure the committee that no increase in disturbance to local residents is expected. Just touching on the previous speaker's point, I'd also like to confirm that the fencing would be timber. We have agreed that a condition limiting the opening hours of the site will be imposed to any permission granted. It's worth noting that no such restriction currently exists. Lighting will also be controlled by condition and will ensure the lighting design prevents light spilling into any adjacent properties. We will do this with downward-facing directional lighting with anti-glare shields if required. A WC for customer use is proposed as suggested by comments on the application. The redevelopment will support increased staffing levels and additional security measures. These will include enhanced CCTV, which will assist with deterring and preventing antisocial behaviour. I would conclude by saying we are in agreement with the office's report and supportive of the conditions recommended. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Okay, now to members, please. Do we have the ward member, maybe? Councillor Martin.
Can I just clarify how many parking spaces are available? Because increasing a shop, they intend to increase their trade to make a profit for themselves rather than a service to the community, because a lot of this will be passing trade. There is a good co-op in the village anyway. And I'm worried about where people are going to put their cars while they park. They don't want to leave their cars by the dispenser, petrol dispenser, while they go in and do their week's shopping. I'm being facetious, sorry. But there don't seem to be many parking spaces there for an increase in trade.
Well, is that true?
Well, there's. I mean, firstly, I do share your concern because I've been stuck behind waiting for somebody to leave a pump because they're doing their shopping in a shop. It is quite frustrating sometimes. No, there's 5 parking spaces proposed as part of this. Actually, let's share my screen. That'd be so I can point them out. That'd be quite useful. So what we have here. As it loads up. So we have 3 parking spaces here. 3 allocated parking spaces. You've got 2 allocated parking spaces here, and then obviously you have the disabled parking space. I mean, obviously you've got the EV charging spaces, which aren't parking spaces, but obviously, as I'm sure you're aware, you are parked there for some time whilst you charge. Oh, yeah, sure.
Am I correct that the 2 are next to the pumps? Because I know that is used for access past the pumps at present. So it would block any extra people going through. And this flow, is it encouraging the use of the upper entrance for the shop? Because normally there's a natural flow through this service station, from the bottom one on this picture to the top one, with a free passage where you're putting parking. And also, you may not be able to answer this, but a lot of people go to petrol stations to check their tyres. At present, it's almost impossible to check their tyres in this station because of the charging points. Will there be provision to pump up your tyres?
You're right, I'm not sure I can answer that in fairness. I mean, I can't see anything on the plan here indicating the I can't think what you call it, the tyre thing. So yeah, I'm not seeing anything on there. And in terms of, I mean, I haven't measured this, so I don't know the width in terms of whether there's enough space to get past a car to park in these. But certainly once you are past that car, obviously having cars parked here wouldn't stop people using these pumps and leaving. But yeah, if both these pumps are being used, you may not be able to immediately access these 2 parking spaces. As I say, without measuring that, I can't say for definite. And I'm just going to, even though I would always warn people about using CGI as any given indication, they can be useful sometimes, just to see how soon. Yeah, I mean, that to me looks quite wide on the CGI here, and it looks like you probably could get a car parked there and a car coming past. But as I say, I wouldn't use this as a definitive, you know, that is the case. These are always sort of slightly, you know, they're artistic impressions. They're not necessarily checked for any kind of accuracy in terms of measurements. So yeah, I can't give you a definite answer, unfortunately, on that.
Sorry, now retract one of my statements. There's a no entry sign making sure they come in through the bottom. So if they're coming to the shop, they've got to go past the people collecting petrol.
Okay.
Hollywood Red.
Councillor Hollywood Red.
Thank you, Chairman. And I note the comments of nearby neighbours. I had 2 questions. One was in relation to the hours of operation and whether we could put a condition just to revert it back to the 7 to 10, which it currently is, rather than the proposed extension of hours. So, well, the first thing I'd like to do is propose a condition on that, if anyone would be happy to second me.
I can second that.
Why? Sorry, Chairman.
Can I just
Councillor Phillips,
very quickly before, I don't know if you're going to go to a vote on that, but actually I just need to correct myself when I said it's 7, it's actually 6:30. The current opening hours, sorry, I've lost them again now. I believe it's 6:30 till 10, Monday to Saturday, 7 till 10 on Sunday. So before we go to a vote to restrict it further than what it is, yeah, so I've got it down here as 6:30 till 10, Monday to Saturday.
In which case, that's my
7 to 10.
misunderstanding. So I apologise about that. So I think that would be unreasonable to put a further condition on there. I just had, I know there's a number of comments, particularly around light pollution and the impact of the light on neighbours. I just wondered around the signage. Is there any difference in the new signage? Is there a light behind the signage compared to the old one, which I think doesn't have light on?
Sorry, I probably should have made it clear. It didn't even strike me to put it in the presentation. This isn't an application for advertisement consent, so we are not looking at the adverts as part of this application. They will require separate advert consent for any new signage, and obviously as part of that, we will look at the illumination.
Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'm actually going to follow on a little bit from what Councillor Whitbread was saying there in terms of the light. I do notice that there is the light condition in number 8, but I wonder if it might be useful to add to that condition that high-level lighting should be turned off within 15 minutes of the petrol station closing. I think it's reasonable to give them 15 minutes in case they need anything to clear up, but to say after 15 minutes after the petrol station is closed, the lights, the high-level lights should be switched off. I think that's a good way to reduce the impact on...
Right, so you have a proposal and a seconder now.
Yeah, we have a proposal, we have a seconder. Who's the seconder?
That's Hobby.
Okay, can we have a vote on that, please?
Unanimous, Chairman.
Thank you.
Now it's Councillor.
Councillor Amos.
Thank you, Chairman. A point of information, please. How long has there been a filling station there? We know from the history, the planning history, there's at least 18 years. And I wondered if we knew how long there had been a filling station on that site.
Oh, you councillors like to get... I was actually going to look this up earlier, and I didn't get round to doing it, so I haven't checked. Let me have a very quick look at the planning history to see if I can find... see, I can't... see, back in 1957, it was still... it was referred to as Bassett Filling Station, so since at least the 50s, if not earlier than that.
Thank you. And we have...
well, that's still Councillor Amos. He was the last one. There's no one else.
Last one. Okay. Do we have anybody else? We have Councillor...
Yes, Councillor Whitehouse and also Councillor Bolton wants to come back.
Okay, so Councillor Whitehouse, please.
Councillor Bolton.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'm very pleased to hear that the hours have been reduced. I was very concerned when it was going to be 24 hours because it is very much a residential area. And also pleased to hear about the extra condition on the lighting, because that was an issue I was going to raise too, because some residents have complained about the lighting overnight. But the issue I did want to raise was litter. One of the objectors does talk about the amount of litter around the building, and I remember with one of the Epping petrol stations, there were similar complaints from residents about litter, and they have been required to ensure that the litter is cleared. I think it's every day, but certainly regularly. I wonder if we could have a condition about having to keep the forecourt clear of litter, because it's not attractive and it does need to be done.
Great.
Switch off.
Thanks. Yeah, no, absolutely. We can put a condition. Members may remember we had a recent application for a Greggs pod at a nearby petrol station. I know that was slightly different because it was for an additional takeaway service, but I think there was a similar request there, and we did put a condition on there about, I can't remember what we called it, but it was a waste management plan or something along those lines. So if you're happy to for us to follow a similar condition to that, I can pull a similar condition across. Yeah, absolutely no problem.
Do we have a seconder for that?
Lots of them.
Lots of them, yes. Okay.
Councillor.
Okay, can we have a vote on that, please, for this new condition?
Unanimous, Chairman.
Thank you.
And And back to Councillor Bolton. He'd like to speak again.
Councillor Bolton.
Only going back to Ram's comment about CGI, that looks like a lovely straight road. It is not. It's on a bend. Visibility going in and out is not good. Highways don't object, so what can we do about it? But it is a speedy road despite a speed camera down a little way down. Everybody knows where it is. They ignore it. But it's the picture is not accurate. It is a bend. It's not.
Okay, the other thing we don't know, of course, is no doubt the owners expect higher footfall or tyre fall there, but we don't know exactly how many more people will actually come and shop there, other than those who go for petrol and go and buy a bag of sweets or something we don't know. So the question about will cars be able to get out when there's other cars in the parking space, maybe not, maybe. I wouldn't expect there to be hundreds and hundreds of more vehicles going into that particular garage. And that applies to litter and pollution and everything, really.
Chairman, can I speak?
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. I can only relate this to the BP service station at Ongar, which has got a shop rather similar, and I've got to say, I think 99% of the people who are in there are people stopping for petrol. It doesn't have a wide... You get the occasional person stopping for a pint of milk or a newspaper or something, but 99% of the people who go in the shop are actually ones who've stopped for petrol.
Thank you.
Philip again.
Councillor Philip.
If we're going into anecdotes, I was going to see his Ongar petrol station racing the Shell in Abridge, which I'm very familiar with, and I would say perhaps not 99%, but at the maybe 95% or so. And the layout is very similar to what's suggested here as well, with parking spaces and the like. It's not a problem. Occasionally you have to wait. Occasionally you have to wait to turn in, partly because the Abridge petrol station is one of the best ones around here that's in terms of price. So it does get a significant number of cars. But I don't know of anybody making a journey to Abridge to shop in the petrol station shop. And as has already been pointed out by Councillor Bolton, there are very good shops already in North Weald, which, might I suggest, given the pricing of petrol station shops, are likely to be cheaper. And certainly in the current environment, with pressure on the cost of living, I think people are more likely to shop there. And as such, I think this is the best way we can do to actually do what the local plan says, which is preserve our petrol stations, because we do all need fuel, or be that electric fuel or not, and we want to protect them, but this gives the best opportunity. It allows us to constrain the hours by the condition. It allows us to take action on the high-level lighting. All in all, I think this is improving the situation rather than making it worse, and I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else have anything to say? I think not. Okay, we come to a vote now, and the vote is to approve the officer's recommendation
with the new conditions.
With the new conditions to support the application, to grant the application. Can we vote, please?
In favour?
Unanimous, Chairman. Unanimous, Chairman.
Okay, so nobody against. Okay, that's the last item here. There's nothing to for the exclusion of the public and press, so I declare the meeting over at 7:43.